London, February 14th, 2026. A scandal quietly ignited, not with a grand gesture, not with a headline-grabbing announcement, but with something deceptively small, a handbag. Yet, this was no ordinary accessory. It was a limited edition Balenciaga cash crocodile-embossed clutch, personally commissioned by Zara Tindall, daughter of Princess Anne, for her appearance at the Women in Equine Leadership Gala earlier this month. The bag wasn't just a fashion statement. It was a symbol of Zara's ascent as a modern royal businesswoman, a carefully curated image of taste, refinement, and subtle influence. According to sources close to the Royal Wardrobe Office, the bag never made it to the gala. Every detail had been painstakingly prepared: hand-embossed leather, discreet monogramming with Zara's initials stored under a designated reservation at Balenciaga, London. Days before her team was scheduled to collect it, the bag vanished. Quiet inquiries were made. Balenciaga allegedly apologized, citing a regrettable logistical error. No police reports, no public statements. In front of the cameras, Zara appeared composed, unbothered. Behind closed doors, however, she was reportedly incandescent, but she chose restraint over spectacle. The story might have ended there, a minor hiccup in the quiet orbit of aristocratic fashion, until the handbag surfaced on Meghan Markle at a closed-door fashion meeting in Paris. The timing was not just unfortunate, it was precise, almost surgical. Meghan, head to toe in black Balenciaga, strode into a left bank PR office with Zara's unreleased clutch in hand. Within 48 hours, internal images circulated at the fashion house, sending shockwaves among executives and insiders. The reaction, swift, careful, and unmistakably strategic. Balenciaga immediately began reviewing Meghan's proposed ambassadorship, quietly postponing all contract talks. Zara, silent in public, allowed her long-standing sense of propriety to dictate her response. The incident reignited an old, smouldering tension. Zara Tindall's path has always diverged from that of her royal cousins. Raised by an Olympic equestrian mother who became a successful entrepreneur and married to rugby star Mike Tindall, Zara has always chosen substance over title. She holds no royal designation by choice, yet commands deep respect for her level-headedness, loyalty, and refusal to chase media headlines. Over the past 2 years, Zara has become more than a fashionable royal. It's argued she embodies the modern British aristocrat, unapologetically elegant, quietly influential, and masterful at projecting authority without noise. She doesn't seek attention, one senior courtier says, but when the spotlight finds her, she knows exactly how to own it. This calm authority made the Meghan incident sting even more. Zara chose not to respond publicly, nor did she demand retraction. Instead, she instructed her private secretary to reach out to Balenciaga with a firm but polite request: investigate how a reserved, personalized item ended up in the possession of someone outside the brand's commercial circle. The contrast between Zara's composed approach and Meghan's public posturing could not have been sharper. Within 24 hours of the internal Balenciaga leak, Meghan's team released a glossy teaser for a new fashion initiative, Love with Meghan, featuring clips of her in Paris, curated mood boards, and close-ups of accessories, including the now notorious handbag. Palace insiders describe the rollout as deliberate, a calculated move not just aimed at Zara, but signalling power and influence to the broader fashion world. Fashion insiders confirm the timing was no coincidence. It was a flex, one publicist says, a way of saying, I can still command attention behind the scenes. But cracks were forming in Meghan's credibility. Despite attending Paris Fashion Week and appearing publicly in Balenciaga, allegedly by invitation of creative director Pier Paolo Poli, it later emerged that Meghan's attendance was never officially confirmed. Her name did not appear on pre-approved ambassador shortlists. Her sudden alignment with the brand raised internal red flags, particularly in light of past wardrobe controversies. Zara's suspicion of Meghan was long-standing, though never overtly expressed. While Catherine, Princess of Wales, maintained cautious diplomacy in earlier years, Zara was unimpressed. A family friend remarked that she always found Meghan theatrical, strategic, and above all, exhausting. At public royal events, Zara maintained distance. Photos from the Queen's Platinum Jubilee in 2022 reportedly show her turning away as the Sussexes arrived at St Paul's Cathedral. At Prince Philip's memorial, she avoided eye contact entirely. The handbag incident, insiders say, was merely the spark igniting years of simmering tension. Princess Anne, renowned for her steel spine and sharp intuition, has never publicly commented on Meghan, yet her absence from meetings, gestures, and events involving the Duchess since 2020 speaks volumes. Following the handbag controversy, Anne is said to have quietly advised Balenciaga to act with dignity and fairness. Her message was clear. The monarchy does not issue ultimatums, but it remembers disrespect, and it does not forget betrayal. What separates Zara and Anne from Meghan, sources say, is not only temperament, but an understanding of power. Anne, the most senior female royal in active duty, wields influence through legacy rather than volume. Zara, raised with that legacy, knows how to wield it silently, never rushing, never chasing headlines. They do not fight in tabloids. They do not throw tantrums. They wait. When Meghan spun the Paris handbag incident as coincidence, Balenciaga insiders quietly flagged concerns about her prior behaviour, particularly regarding the now-defunct Archewell wardrobe project. Murmurs became formal inquiries. Before the week was out, the fashion house's legal team paused all negotiations. What had begun as a missing handbag was now a question of integrity. Paris, February 15th, 2026. A quiet internal email landed at Balenciaga HQ, but its implications were seismic. Titled Contractual Freeze, Meghan Markle. It instructed suspension of all pending and informal agreements with the Duchess until questions of product access and brand alignment were fully reviewed. Behind the legal formality, the blow landed like a thunderclap. Meghan, once whispered to be the face of a luxury sustainability line, had been quietly dropped from consideration. No public statement. Calculated silence. According to a former brand manager, Balenciaga sought to disengage without drama, but Meghan's team refused to allow subtlety. Within 48 hours, Instagram stories appeared, hinting at misogyny and institutional sabotage, suggesting a broader conspiracy to freeze her out of elite circles. Balenciaga remained unnamed, but the implication was unmistakable. One palace source commented, "Victimhood over accountability, same old playbook, but the context has shifted." As Meghan scrambled to reposition herself with teaser content and smaller European labels, Zara stayed the course. She attended the Cartier British Polo Awards in Gloucestershire, clad in a pristine white-tailored suit from Victoria Beckham's upcoming collection. Critics praised her controlled elegance, measured restraint, and aristocratic poise. The subtlety was intentional, a quiet assertion of solidarity, authority, and command without a single word. A Vogue UK editor reflected on the contrast. Meghan chased attention, trying to orchestrate loyalty contests within fashion circles. Zara let the world move toward her naturally. A week later, Harper's Bazaar UK confirmed Zara had been offered a cover feature, which she declined, citing family commitments. The signal was clear. In the battle for public perception, Zara did not need to fight. She already won behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Princess Anne quietly initiated a review of how royal-adjacent figures were aligning with commercial entities. Though diplomatically described as routine, the timing coincided with growing concerns over Meghan's alleged misuse of royal references in brand negotiations. Anne's method was subtle but precise. Draw the line without press conferences, using policy, procedure, and quiet influence. Anne reactivated her personal public image advisory group, dormant since the Queen's passing. Their first task, assess how Zara, Lady Louise, and Sophie of Edinburgh could be elevated as quiet ambassadors of the Crown. While Meghan made noise, the real royals recalibrated, strengthened, and repositioned themselves. Meanwhile, Meghan's influence began to erode. The Archewell Foundation faced new scrutiny from the US Internal Revenue Service after leaked memos suggested discrepancies between reported expenses and actual project output. Tyler Perry, once a silent patron and reliable ally, reportedly refused further financial support. Meghan's Paris press tour struggled to land traction. A fashion PR executive remarked it felt off-brand. While Meghan aimed to be seen as an innovator, the industry increasingly regarded her as a disruptive figure, and not in a flattering way. For the first time since stepping back from royal duties in 2020, Meghan's influence plateaued. Luxury brands once eager to court her grew wary. Invitations thinned. Meanwhile, her inner circle reportedly returned to the UK for private discussions with Palace legal counsel. By mid-February 2026, Meghan Markle's world looked increasingly isolated. Her social media posts became erratic, swinging from moments of empowerment to cryptic hints of unspeakable truths she might reveal. The subtext was no longer subtle. Exposure has always been her sword and shield, a former Sussex aide said. But this time, the room isn't afraid anymore. Her usual aura of influence and control was fading, replaced by growing whispers of unpredictability. The divide within the royal orbit had stopped being discreet. Official statements were non-existent, yet the silence screamed volumes. Lines had been drawn, allegiances quietly cemented within the hidden chambers of Bagshot Park and the private courtyards of Windsor. Conversations that once flowed freely had turned deliberate, measured and calculated. Zara Tindall, once dismissed by some as a non-working royal, had now emerged at the centre of a subtle but powerful cultural realignment. Her power wasn't declared. It radiated through public dignity and quiet consistency. She had done nothing overt, and that was precisely the point. Lady Louise Windsor became the first visible signal of this shift. On the morning after the Paris fashion incident exploded online, she was spotted slipping out of the back entrance of Zara's London flat, dressed in a long navy coat and a modest beret. No cameras, no entourage, no public announcement, yet the image spoke volumes. Louise shared a bond with Zara built on shared upbringing outside the glare of working royal duties. Both understood the power of subtlety. For the first time it was clear, Zara was not standing alone. Later that week, the Duchess of Edinburgh, formerly the Countess of Wessex, was photographed hosting Zara and Lady Louise at a private equestrian gathering in Oxfordshire. Reporters were barred. Social media remained silent. Insiders confirmed the event was more than casual family leisure. It was a strategic move to stabilise the narrative internally. Sophie, known as the bridge between royal generations, had been observing quietly. Meghan's behaviour towards Zara had shifted, from passive disdain to overt provocation. Initially, Meghan reportedly mocked Zara as unpolished and irrelevant, but once Zara began receiving invitations to high-profile diplomatic events and luxury brand engagements, the balance of perception shifted, and Meghan's own strategy faltered. One palace insider recalled staffers losing it when Cartier invited Zara, not Meghan, to co-host the upcoming Windsor Gala. In desperation, Meghan's team tried to mobilise a competing media campaign. It backfired spectacularly. Seeking leverage, Meghan turned to Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, her only remaining links to the institutional family. Once sympathetic, the York sisters had cooled by 2026. Meghan reportedly invited them to a private dinner in Mayfair under the guise of reconciliation. Her actual agenda, a coordinated public statement defending her right to pursue luxury partnerships unmonitored by palace oversight. Beatrice declined the invitation outright. Eugenie arrived late, lingered for 40 minutes, and left in silence. She was baiting them, said a former royal liaison, trying to drag them into her feud with Zara and Anne. But the York sisters are survivors. They've learned when to walk away from the wrong conversation. Meghan's approach wasn't merely risky, it bordered on insulting. You can't manufacture proximity, the source continued. Zara earned her place through consistency and credibility. Meghan keeps trying to leapfrog the hard work. Princess Catherine said nothing publicly, yet her silence carried weight beyond any statement. At a London charity gala on February 12, 2026, her first major public appearance following a period of health-related retreat, Catherine donned a restructured ivory gown, first worn by Queen Elizabeth II in 1969. The choice was deliberate, a signal of continuity, legacy, and subtle alignment. A royal fashion historian noted that while Catherine and Zara had rarely been photographed together privately, insiders confirm an unspoken respect existed between them. Catherine embodies discretion. Zara exemplifies it. Together, the message was unmistakable. They let conduct speak for itself. Meanwhile, Meghan continued posting cryptic, defiant messages. I was never invited to their table because they knew I'd build my own. The public's fascination, however, was waning. Those headlines she once mistook for loyalty no longer swayed the crowd. Loyalty doesn't trend. It endures, one British editor commented. By mid-February, UK media outlets began shifting coverage, once deferential to Meghan's Hollywood halo, to more neutral or critical narratives. Tatler, The Telegraph, and several other publications released analysis highlighting the widening gap between Meghan's expectations and the realities of royal protocol. In contrast, Zara's profile quietly surged. At a paediatric medical fundraiser in Cardiff, she raised over £2 million. She was floated as a potential ambassador for British Paralympic equestrian programmes. She did not seek headlines, yet the doors opened naturally. Internal palace reports, typically unseen by the public, confirmed an institutional rebalancing. Leaked memos from the Lord Chamberlain's office instructed that certain relationships be reprioritised for public interest. Zara, Sophie, and Lady Louise were now steady hands. Meghan, increasingly, was a reputational liability. Princess Anne's response was strategic, silent, and surgical. On the morning of February 7th, 2026, behind the fortified glass doors of Clarence House, she held a meeting that insiders later dubbed the Restoration Briefing. The subject was Meghan Markle. The objective, containment without contamination. Anne, the longest-serving female royal and a master of institutional continuity, delivered what one aide described as a masterclass in restraint. She didn't speak Meghan's name once, not out of fear, but to deny chaos the power it craves. Instead, Anne emphasised the preservation of image through contrast in behaviour. The family's stance going forward would be one of consistent silence. No rebuttals, no press statements, no social media engagement. Meghan's theatrics were to be allowed to collapse under their own weight. Internal records show Anne instituted what became known as the non-engagement protocol. The Crown does not duel on social media. The Crown does not chase press cycles. The Crown endures. Yet Meghan, sensing isolation, doubled down. 3 days after Zara was offered a coveted limited edition co-hosting role at the Royal Ascot-style pavilion, a position once quietly hinted for Meghan in 2020, her team escalated. A sealed letter was hand-delivered to a London law firm representing one of the palace's charitable partners. The letter warned that if defamatory inferences toward the Duchess continued, Meghan would consider releasing archived digital communications with unnamed senior royals. The subtext was clear. A threat to leak private correspondence. Palace officials labelled it the Windsor Files bluff. Meghan wanted the institution to flinch, but the palace, built to withstand centuries of upheaval, did not. The ripple effects extended beyond the palace walls into Europe's luxury fashion scene. After Meghan's alleged snub of Zara in Paris and her subsequent aggressive PR campaign, several high-end houses quietly withdrew collaboration offers. Chanel, rumoured to be in talks for a sustainability project with Meghan, pivoted to highlight Zara as a silent ambassador for their equestrian capsule collection. Dior and Burberry, both approached by Meghan's stylists for spring 2026 campaigns, opted to distance themselves. She doesn't represent discretion, a French PR director said. Discretion is our currency. Zara understands that. Meghan doesn't. Zara's 2026 calendar filled quietly but with precision. She co-hosted the Royal Charity Polo Invitational, led equestrian events for the Commonwealth Youth Games, and featured in Harper's Bazaar UK's Legacy and Lineage issue. She accepted no payment. She made no announcements, yet doors opened, access was granted, and her credibility flourished. A fashion editor remarked, "She didn't step forward. She didn't chase headlines. She didn't misstep. That's all it took." The most striking moment of composure came during the Glasgow horse trials. A journalist asked Zara if she had seen Meghan's latest Instagram post, which featured a replica of Zara's 2022 Ascot outfit captioned, "Real class needs no bloodline." Zara blinked once and replied, cool and measured, "Some of us ride horses, some of us ride headlines. I prefer the former." The remark went viral, picked up by over 300 outlets in 24 hours. Calm, icy, devastating, and more powerful than any press release. Even Princess Anne reportedly raised an approving eyebrow. Meanwhile, Archewell's internal morale plummeted. 2 directors resigned. A major investor backed out of a proposed educational streaming deal. Netflix halted new pitches. Meghan, sensing the backlash, pivoted publicly to wellness and women's empowerment, making subtle jabs in podcast interviews about royal intimidation of women with voices. Observers widely interpreted this as a direct shot at Zara, but Zara remained unmoved. She boarded a plane to Botswana for a rural equine development program sponsored by the Commonwealth Secretariat. No cameras, no press, just work, just impact. The contrast could not have been more stark. One woman attempting to force relevance through threats, media manipulation, and public spectacle. Another woman becoming quietly indispensable by refusing to demand attention at all. By late February 2026, the public was quietly making its choice, and they chose the woman who never asked to be chosen. Meghan Markle's meticulously curated public persona, the polished veneer of Hollywood allure combined with royal insider credibility, was beginning to crumble. Her usual arsenal of press exclusives, fashion appearances, and victim narratives no longer guaranteed the viral dominance they once did. Every effort to reclaim relevance collided with a subtler, more enduring force: royal restraint. At the heart of that restraint stood 2 women, Zara Tindall and Princess Anne. They chose silence over spectacle, stability over chaos, legacy over headlines. The first cracks in Meghan's narrative didn't appear in court filings, lawsuits, or tabloid headlines, but on a stateside podcast. On February 22nd, she appeared on Undaunted, a popular women's empowerment show streamed to millions. The teaser was unmistakably Markle: measured poetry, velvet tones, controlled outrage, all wrapped in rehearsed emotion. Yet, somewhere between the scripted lines and raw feeling, her composure began to falter. "Some women stay quiet because it's safe," she said. "Others because they've been taught that silence is elegance. But I believe silence sometimes is just complicity, especially when you're watching someone be torn apart for being too different." Behind the scenes, producers admitted that Meghan had rewritten her script 3 times and demanded unprecedented editorial control. One insider, speaking anonymously, said bluntly, "She wasn't empowering, she was unraveling." The segment featured no villain, no scandal to counteract, only the growing perception that the very royal women she had once mocked were quietly eclipsing her. Meanwhile, Zara Tindall had never sought the spotlight. Yet, by February 2026, she had become the most reposted royal online. User-generated content, not official palace channels, drove the trend. Clips of her helping a disabled child mount a pony at a Gloucestershire charity event went viral. An offhand comment she made at a Commonwealth panel, "We're not above criticism, but we are above collapse," was printed on tote bags, t-shirts, and circulated widely across fashion blogs. Zara's understated elegance inspired an entire online narrative. She became known as the aristocratic answer to quiet luxury. TikTok creators dissected her wardrobe: equestrian chic, heirloom brooches, subtle tailoring, always timeless, never performative. When fans asked how she managed pressure without drama, Zara's team posted one line that immediately went viral: "I grew up in a house where horses had more tantrums than humans." It was witty, calm, and devastating in its contrast to Meghan's public theatrics. On February 24th, Princess Anne quietly intervened. Not a public statement, not a reprimand, but a private letter couriered to Montecito via diplomatic post. Its contents were never disclosed, but palace sources confirmed that the tone was composed, direct, and deliberate. Anne's message was neither an olive branch nor an attack. It was a reminder: royalty is earned, not inherited. It is forged in the spaces between headlines, in the unseen ways one endures, not merely in what one says. Anne invited Meghan to consider a path of duty, not as a duchess, not as a celebrity, but as a woman capable of leaving a legacy. Meghan never responded. While Zara graced the cover of Country Life, Meghan faced a new challenge. On February 26th, the U.S. Internal Revenue Service's Exempt Organizations Division opened a formal inquiry into the Archewell Foundation's grant distribution. Allegations included misuse of brand-affiliated travel expenses, donor naming conflicts, and inflated PR budgets disguised as charitable storytelling. For the first time, scrutiny came not from British tabloids, but from federal authorities immune to media spin. Meghan's lawyers issued a vague statement pledging full transparency, yet internally, panic set in. Former employees were subpoenaed, documents were requested, and the timing could not have been worse. In London, preparations were quietly underway, not for retaliation, but for defence. Prince William instructed the Royal Communications Office to update Sussex-era protocols, flagging potential reputational risks tied to past engagements. Princess Catherine advised her patronages to softly transition away from collaborations linked to Meghan. Zara, when asked by a royal aide whether she wished to comment on the Markle tension, replied simply, "If you know what you're doing, you don't have to explain what you didn't do." Meanwhile, Princess Anne coordinated quietly with the Royal Legal Council, ensuring the monarchy would remain untangled from any potential litigation. "We are not players in her story," she reportedly said. "We are the page she cannot rewrite." A haunting image emerged from Los Angeles. Meghan, alone, reflected in a cafe window, documents in hand, lips pressed tight. A royal insider commented, "She wanted power. She forgot we don't show it, we hold it back." Across the Atlantic, Zara observed with quiet composure. She had just returned from a 3-day veterinary research conference and was preparing for a Royal Military Charity Gala. As she stepped from her car in a navy cape coat adorned with a sapphire brooch, a reporter shouted, "Any words for Meghan?" Zara's reply was understated, yet final. None were needed. The doors closed behind her, and the public's attention shifted back to purpose over performance. Under the misty morning drizzle of a London spring, Zara walked through the wrought iron gates, not as an Olympic equestrian or as Princess Anne's granddaughter, but as the newly appointed Special Envoy for Heritage and Sport, a royal position created to honour her decades-long service to the Commonwealth. There had been no prior announcements, no photographers tipped. Princess Anne, ever strategic, had decided the moment should speak for itself. Standing beside King Charles, Zara accepted the title with a bow, her gaze steady, unflinching. Her new responsibilities included overseeing royal patronages across youth sporting programmes within the Commonwealth, with a special focus on female empowerment and post-trauma equine therapy. No glitz, no sponsorship, no media spectacle, just service. Meanwhile, Meghan launched a live global broadcast from a luxury Los Angeles loft titled The Cost of Silence. 500,000 viewers tuned in. She spoke softly at first, then sharpened her tone, discussing exclusion, power, and watching others ascend while she was frozen out. "The monarchy taught me that dignity is about smiling in silence," she said. "But silence is not peace, it's permission." She never named anyone directly, yet the jabs were unmistakable. She concluded with a chilling promise. "I will tell my daughter the truth. They could not bear to hear from me." Yet within 24 hours, Meghan's broadcast was overshadowed by a development she had not anticipated. The Royal Archives unveiled a permanent exhibition at Windsor Castle titled Service in Motion. Featured prominently were Princess Anne, the late Queen Elizabeth II, and Zara Tindall. Zara's exhibit included letters from girls she mentored, video clips from military hospital visits, and her Olympic boots from 2012. There were no hashtags, no sponsorship logos, just enduring impact. Near the exit, a quote from Princess Anne read, "Some talk of legacy, others ride it out, rain or shine." It quickly became the most shared line of the week. Meghan was later photographed leaving a Los Angeles legal office alone, lips tight, documents in hand. Insiders claimed she was considering civil defamation claims against unnamed royal advisors that same evening. Meanwhile, Zara and her husband, Mike Tindall, attended a veterans fundraiser at Sandringham. A young girl in a wheelchair approached Zara. She knelt, asked gently, "What's your dream?" The girl replied, "To be brave like you." Zara smiled. "I think you already are." No broadcast, no viral clip, just legacy. For the first time, the world saw the true divide. One woman chased control of the story, the other became a part of history. One demanded attention, the other commanded respect without ever needing to. She chose to keep it, and the public noticed. While Meghan pursued headlines and viral moments, Zara's influence quietly expanded. Social media users, fashion insiders, and even charity boards began to recognize the subtle power of discretion. In the weeks that followed, Zara's name continued to rise in reputation, not because she shouted, not because she demanded coverage, but because she delivered results, inspired trust, and acted with integrity. It became clear to observers everywhere, real power doesn't require self-promotion. True influence thrives in measured action, patience, and service. The story wasn't about drama anymore, it was about enduring legacy. So, if you want to see what it truly looks like when grace meets strategy, when service outweighs spectacle, like, comment, and subscribe to follow the journey of those who shape history without ever needing to announce it.